All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. My name is Nicholas Calderon, and I'm the director of the San Mateo County Parks Department. On behalf of the entire department, our project partners, Post and the California State Coastal Conservancy, and our project consultants, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to contribute to this special project. It is it is rare that a coastal property like Tunitas Creek Beach is converted from private ownership to public land when access is expanded from just a few to the many. But that's the fortunate situation we've found ourselves in, and we could not be more excited. During our first round of public engagement, we heard many common themes, including a strong desire to preserve the natural character and beauty of this property and to prioritize the restoration and preservation of the native landscape for the benefit of the flora and fauna, especially the western snowy plover. Tonight, we will be revealing a series of improvements that have been deemed priority developments based on the feedback received during the first round of public engagement. After discussing these improvements, members of the public will be able to participate in small group, topic-specific virtual breakout rooms. If you're interested in discussing outdoor experience, there'll be a breakout room for that. If you are primarily concerned about protection of native plants and wildlife, there will be an environmental preservation or protection breakout room. Our goal for tonight is to better understand what type of improvements and programming you would like to see in your new county park. Every coastal beach and park offer a different experience. Tonight is your chance to let us know what type of experience you would like to have when you visit Tunitas Creek Beach County Park in the future. Before we get started, we would like to do a land acknowledgement. And the acknowledgement states that San Mateo County Parks acknowledges that our parks are located on the ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush and Muwekma Ohlone people, and that as the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush and Muwekma Ohlone understood the interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. Indigenous communities have lived in and moved throughout this county for hundreds of generations, and Indigenous people from many nations live and work in this region today. Please join us in acknowledging and honoring their ancestors, their elders, and their communities. Next, we would like to provide an aerial flyover of the property. And so we can quickly orientate ourselves before we play the video. You'll see to your right the highway. To the left will be the ocean, and this is currently set up in a north-south direction. It's a 2-minute video, but for the duration of this, we'd really encourage you just to take a look at the property, understand its landscape, its orientation, and think about what type of experience you want to have when you're coming here with your friends, with your family, by yourself, just to think and reflect. Ask yourself that question as you're watching this video.
At this time, we'd like to conduct our first poll of the evening, which should be popping up on your screen in just a few seconds. We've collected a lot of information in the previous engagement phase about where people were from, and we're curious to see who's joining us this evening. So if you can select your geography, we'll give people about 30 seconds here just to weigh in. Thanks, everybody. We've got a San Mateo County crew this evening, both Midcoast, Bayside, and that's great to see. There'll be another poll shortly. Taylor?
All right, thanks, Andy. So for those of you who haven't met yet, I'm Taylor Jang. I'm the Stewardship Project Manager at Peninsula Open Space Trust. POST is a nonprofit land trust, and we were one of the project partners in helping to protect Tunitas Creek Beach. And so, you know, Tunitas has a long and rich history, starting with the Ohlone and on through colonization, the Spanish, and prohibition. And most of that is detailed in our slides from the first round of community engagement, so I'm not going to go into that today. I really wanted to talk about the community catalyst for the beach protection and how that relates to the improvements that are proposed today. So for many, many, many years, Tunitas was used by locals and other visitors under kind of a pack it in, pack it out mentality. In the early 2010s, social media really raised the profile of Tunitas in a negative way. And so raves, campouts, parties, other uses on the beach started to really take a toll in terms of the environment and in terms of public safety. It was a situation that was pretty out of hand. And so a longtime community beach cleanup crew, Tunitas locals, petitioned Supervisor Horsley's office to really help address the problem. And that's when POST and County Parks got involved. And so POST purchased the beach in 2017, and then County Parks started patrols soon after. And we've seen really drastic improvements in environmental conditions and visitor behavior from that time. So our next step after kind of the initial land protection was to get input from the community. And I'm really excited to see some familiar faces that helped put together this community advisory committee vision. You can see on the left here, the front cover of that, that's also up on the website if you want to learn more about this effort. You know, recognizing that the beach had a really strong community of supporters, we brought together a really diverse group of interests: environmentalists, education groups, youth, recreation folks, and longtime locals to provide advisory input that would help frame this current round of the project that we are currently in. And so, you know, the goal of the CAC process, you can see here, we really wanted to understand the different ways that people saw the beach. The different perspectives, the different ways that people wanted to experience it, as Nicholas was mentioning. And we were grounded in values. And so some of those values you can see on the right that we discussed and considered. And the four that really rose to the top are equity, education, environment, and experiences. And those are the four core values that really carried through with the project and are still with us today. So, you know, recognizing that some trade-offs will need to be made between a number of different factors, say environment and access, or between management and kind of that sense of wildness and remoteness, there are decisions in front of this team and the community. And so that's why we really wanted to get your input here tonight.
Thank you, Taylor. It's time for poll number 2. We're curious to know how many people out there have been to Tunitas Creek Beach before. And again, the polls will just pop up in a second here. And please take a second to add your vote. So about 2/3, or exactly 2/3 of our attendees that voted this evening have been out to this beach before, and they understand the significant value of this place, I'm sure. And for those of you that haven't been, we're happy to be working to provide a means for you to do so soon. As we begin to move ahead, I did want to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Andy Dawson. I'm a planner and landscape architect with WRT. We're one of the consultants that's helping San Mateo County Parks and Post and the Coastal Conservancy navigate this engagement process and eventually the design and construction process that will follow. This slide here is just to orient everyone to the location of the site. Tunitas Creek Beach is indicated there towards the bottom of the screen. We're kind of facing northeast here. You can see the rest of the peninsula, San Mateo, Redwood City, in case you were unaware of where we were talking about this evening. There's a rich history to the site. There's many layers that we've been researching and studying, whether it was native peoples that Nicholas mentioned, or timber industry, railroads. Over time, the site has seen a lot of different layers come together, and we're trying to be cognizant of that as we move through this design, find ways of acknowledging that, or interpreting that, providing some educational opportunities. This site here shows the Ocean Shore Railroad trestle extending over Tunitas Creek. These days, it's really a fantastic wide open space, all kinds of recreational, relaxing opportunities to be had. The beach itself, the surrounding landscape, really unique habitat zones, lots of rare, sensitive, even threatened species. Obviously, we have incredible views from the site, the tall bluffs, and for the majority of the site, lack of large trees mean that for many people going up and down Highway 1, this provides an incredible vista out over the ocean. But the steep bluffs also create some challenges, obviously, with regards to access. And out there today are a number of unsanctioned trails that people have used to cut their way down to the beach. And unfortunately, this is causing a lot of degradation to the site. These erosion-prone steep slopes really get damaged by these trails crisscrossing down through the site from the highway to the beach. This is something we're seeking to address as we move forward. During our first round of engagement, we conducted a general survey that was seeking some broad-based information about who our audience was, who's coming to Tunitas, who would come to Tunitas, how would they get here, what would they like to do here, who would come with them. And we found some pretty significant indicators leaning towards these ideas of peace and quiet, place to relax, a landscape that should be preserved with priorities for birds and wildlife, and really a large response to try and keep the site as natural as possible to avoid overdeveloping this park. And that was reflected in the public input received about the 3 alternatives. These alternatives spanned from alternative 1, which is very minimal improvements, essentially, you know, what would be the most basic requirements to get the park open safely and stabilize some of these sensitive landscapes. Alternative 2 added some additional improvements that were meant to enhance operations and the user experience, perhaps provide some additional restoration components. And alternative 3 was really about what would a full build out look like? That was all about maximizing habitat enhancement, but also maximizing user experiences with different types of amenities and features. And as you can see the results of that input, alternative 2 and 1 were heavily weighed, which really leans toward the less intensive development schemes that were proposed. This input is really driving the team's direction now as we move into this next phase. And this diagram tries to capture, a kind of a transect of development that we could see happening out on the site. The high development zone is up on top of the bluff along the highway where there's an existing dirt parking lot, and we would see, additional parking created and overlook, obviously to take in the incredible views. Whereas you come all the way down these slopes and to the beach where we're seeing minimal to no development, trying to keep it as natural as possible. This aerial image here is really just showing the existing conditions out on the site. And you can see Highway 1, north is to the left. The Pacific Ocean on the bottom of the screen is to the west. And there's a couple of features that we just want to call attention to. One, the existing dirt parking lot, which is really nothing more than a pullout from the highway where parking is very informal and oftentimes tricky to get back on the highway. There is a service road that exists that leads down to an area that we call the MID-BLUFF, which is kind of this mid-slope location, a relatively flat zone where there is an existing residence that's been there for a long time. That residence will be coming down. It's in complete disrepair and needs to be demolished to create a safe condition for the public out here on the site. Finally, you can see the actual Tunitas Creek there to the far left of the screen. This slide indicates the priority improvements that have been determined thus far in order to create a safe, accessible, and enjoyable Tunitas Creek Beach experience. We have improved parking along the top of the bluff. We have an accessible pathway down from the parking to the mid-bluff area, which will have a ranger station, public restroom, and then you see the trail continuing down to the beach itself. We're also indicating the closure of some of the existing social or unsanctioned trails, not some, all of actually, and proposing erosion controls and replanting in those locations while providing additional access down to the beach through the path I indicated along the service road, but also a more naturalistic trail that loops around to the southern bluffs and gives people an opportunity to arrive at the beach from a more southern entrance. Starting at the top, you can see the image here showing the existing condition at the top of the bluff and a plan view showing the proposed parking lots and parking lot layout and entrance and exits that have been considered. We're working in partnership with Caltrans and PG&E here to ensure that we're meeting all the necessary regulatory requirements, and also working closely with county parks to ensure that their operational standards are being met in terms of site security and ways that they can maintain this site as we move forward. The image in the bottom right is showing a potential future of an overlook point that's taking advantage of this high bluff overlook to enjoy the views towards the bluffs. We want to make sure we provide pedestrian access down to the beach. The service road that exists right now is not ADA compliant and is also only wide enough for one-way traffic. That's being reserved for emergency vehicles and the ranger, while we're creating an additional pedestrian path that winds its way, navigates its way down the slope to the mid-bluff area. This is to ensure that everyone who comes out to Tunitas Creek Beach can enjoy the amenities, not only at the top of the bluff, but also down here to the mid-bluff area. We heard from a lot of folks that prioritizing a small ranger residence would be something they'd like to see out here to ensure the continued protection of the site as it does become a public park. And that's something we're considering here in the grove of trees that exists out on the site. As I mentioned, the existing residence will be removed, and here at the mid-bluff, we're prioritizing additional overlook opportunities, places to rest, seating options, and a public restroom. You can see the trail here coming down to the beach itself. That is essentially an emergency access path and will be used as well for people to walk down from the mid-bluff to the beach. At the beach, we're prioritizing habitat, creek protection, notably the existence of western snowy plover habitat towards the north end of the site here. As we flip around and face south, as I noted before, the team is proposing this southern loop trail, which will navigate its way down carefully through the southern bluffs to drop people off at a kind of southern arrival point on the beach. We're also considering programming opportunities going forward, and this is, along with the design intent, this is something we're looking to get your input on. We believe there's lots of opportunities for community science stewardship programs, obviously outdoor education, field trips, wildlife viewing, indigenous cultural programming. We know there's more. We'd love to hear more from you this evening or going forward. And with that baseline in mind, those priorities that have been established with the regulatory guidelines we're working with, the operational standards of San Mateo County Parks, and that first round of community input that we received, that created those essential improvements that we consider kind of a baseline for this design as we go forward. One of the key goals of this evening's workshop is to hear from you about what are these additional key features and programs that you might think would be really beneficial to the user experience or really critical to protecting the site or seeing it remain intact as it is today. Tonight's not your only opportunity to do that. This information is all on the Tunitas Creek Beach website as well. So feel free to visit the site, take the survey, weigh in on these additional key features and programs that you think would be important for Tunitas. I'm just going to flip through them here briefly, but we're definitely considering an improved overlook experience here at the top of the bluff. You can see the existing condition image on the right, the dirt parking lot, and a potential idea of what this could look like in the future with multiple levels of viewing opportunities, ADA accessibility, connectivity for cyclists. As you make your way down the path to the mid-bluff, it's not a short walk. We think that there are definitely opportunities along this pathway for there to be these rest stops with places to sit, places to step aside off the path, taking the views on your way down the trail. We also think there's lots of interpretive opportunities out here on the site. And while we don't want to create an overly ambitious visitor center or heavy building on the site, we think there's an opportunity for potential very light on the land, kind of open air pavilion that offers some educational opportunities and also a place to shelter either from the sun or from inclement weather. This is a bird's eye view of the potential MID-BLUFF area. So you can see the service road coming down the hill and you can see the ADA pathway, and then also the beach down even lower to the right. But at the MID-BLUFF, there's lots of opportunity, whether it's for enhanced seating and picnic options, this idea of some amphitheater seating, watching the sunset, small group gatherings or field trips for students, you know, a place to come together and hear from a ranger. Obviously, the public restroom is also indicated here at the MID-BLUFF. And down at the beach, there's an idea on the table for a wildlife viewing boardwalk that extends northwards towards Tunitas Creek. This would be, you know, entering through the habitat protection area, but would offer additional educational or interpretive elements, and would also offer a unique experience out there on the site. And lastly, on that southern loop trail, there's certainly opportunities for additional seating or perhaps you know, an overlook point that creates a completely different view than the rest of the site. At this time, we're going to move to our breakout discussions. And Taylor covered these 4 project values that are being carried forward from the community vision: environmental protection, equity and inclusion, education and awareness, and outdoor experiences. The goal of the breakout discussion is to share ideas, offer some new thinking around these topics, and let the facilitators record those ideas. We're going to report back to the large, you know, to the full group after 20 minutes of discussion. And I just want to note that after that, we are going to have a Q&A session as well. So save your questions for the Q&A, and consider the breakout rooms a chance to brainstorm about potentials that you see here on the site related to these topics. And I think at this point, you may be able to choose a room that you're going to go to. And Carla, let me know if I need to do anything else here.
Yeah, so I'm going to open up the rooms, and I will try to do my best to reassign people, because it looks like we're not able to allow people to self-select. But I'll try my best. I'll watch the chat and see if I can move people around.
Yeah, please feel free to use the chat, which will go direct to Carla. If you have a specific topic you'd like to go to, and we'll use the chat feature as well for our questions, our Q&A session. So at this time, we're going to jump into these rooms and look forward to talking with you there. Thank you.
Hi, this is Nick Erich. Can I ask a quick question?
Are we all in a group together?
It's hard.
I'm not sure I understand here.
I think that they're probably just moving people around.
Okay.
what's in the right groups, and then a facilitator will probably come help us out. I
Oh,
hope.
good.
Yeah, are you seeing a room to go into?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I can't see. Okay, what's your name?
Leslie Flint?
Leslie, I will do my best here.
Environmental. I'm interested in our environmental, Carla.
There you go. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Carla, this is Myrna Richardson. Can we go
Yep.
to environmental? Is there room there?
I'm gonna do my best.
I suggest putting the room you want to be in next to your name. That's probably the fastest way to make sure Carla can see it.
I put mine in the chat. I would like number 3. I don't know if she's checking chat.
I was, now I'm,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Sid, where did you want to go?
I think I said 3. I don't remember what it was now, though.
Outdoor experience?
Yeah. Oh, no.
No?
Hold on. Let me go back and look at the list. It was
Okay.
about the cultural things and the nature, I think.
Number 1 is environmental. Number 2 is equity and inclusion. Number 3 is education and awareness. Number 4 is outdoor experience.
Don't know if you can hear me. It's Tom Huntington. I would like to go to 1,
Okay, Tom.
environment. I don't know how to put that on the chat.
Carla, this is Nick. If you could put me in room 1,
Environmental
too.
protection?
Yes, please.
Okay, and Nick, I'm sorry.
Room 1, please. Thank you.
Carla Judith Smith in equity, please.
And Cass would like to be in room 4.
Carla, this is Lori Winslow. I'd like to be in environment.
Cass, I'm sorry, where did you want to be?
Room 4, thank you. Environment.
What's the, they changed?
Environment.
Environment, okay, and who was the other person?
Lori Winslow in environment. Judith Smith in equity.
Randy Bethel, recreation.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Randy Bethel, recreation.
Outdoor experience?
Outdoor experience, yeah.
Okay.
Used to be number 4.
Hi, this is Anna Polachek. I'd like to be in number 4 also.
Anna, number 4, which was, it dropped the number, so what was that?
The outdoor experience.
Okay.
This is Joy Dryden. I'd like to be in number 2, the equity and whatever that's called.
There you go. Who else?
Ani Lukowitz, number 4.
Bonnie, what topic was that? Was it outdoor experience, I think?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, hey Carla, it's Christine Corwin. Outdoor experience, please.
There you go.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Bill Bates, outdoor experience, number 4, please.
Patty Black, number 4.
Anybody else?
I'd like to be.
This is Frank.
I'd like
I'll go to
be in
number
the
4 as well.
equity room.
Oops, I'm sorry. Who is that? Bob?
Bob Stein, yes.
Where did you want to be?
The equity room. I'm interested in handicap access.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Frank. I'll go to the outdoor experience room.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have a few other people.
You can send me anywhere, Carla.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me see where there's fewer people. How about education and awareness? And Nick, did you get into where you wanted to be?
No, I don't think so.
And I'm sorry, where did you want to go?
1.
Environmental protection?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, this is Wendell Burkhofer. I'll go to room number 1 also.
There you go. So I have a few people who haven't joined. If you're happy not joining, that's fine. Just want to give you that option.
You asked us to enter it in the chat, which is what I did, but I'm still out here. So
Is this Kimberly?
yeah, so I'm interested in whichever group is going to discuss infrastructure.
Okay. Give me a little more information.
Parking lots, pavement, residents, buildings, sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm gonna, that's a really tough one. I'm going to put you in environmental protection, but I'm not really sure that that's the niche for you, but I'll put you there and you can let me know if you want to move.
Sure. Thank you.
Leslie?
Hi, I'm just here to see what it's like in the main room in preparation for the Spanish forum, which will be tomorrow.
Thank you, Carla.
¿Hay alguien que hable español?
No, sorry, I wish I did.
No, I saw some Hispanic names, so I thought maybe somebody could come today that might want.
Fair question. Yeah. Hi, Adam.
Just want to check in. I see a few folks hanging out in here, and if anybody's interested, we'd love to have some more folks talking about education. That room is light, and there's a real opportunity for folks to have their voice heard on the issue of education, whether that's about education on environmental issues or Native history or ocean protection, all kinds of opportunities there. So if anybody wants to do that, let us know. Carla can send you on your way. Carla, are you still here?
I am.
Hey, I guess there's some people who may be watching and have stepped away from their computer, I'm guessing, or have just.
Yeah, I made the request if anybody want. I just assigned one person, but.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. That the intro part all went very well there.
Yeah, it's always, sometimes you really never know how it's going to work. But
How long are we in breakouts for?
we've got maybe another 4 minutes.
Okay.
And everybody will get they should get a warning, like a minute warning when I close all rooms.
Good. What other rooms are light other than the education one?
Education's the primary one.
I'm curious I might go be a fly on the wall if you want to send me to the equity room.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If you think it's worthwhile, you can cycle me to the rooms, or maybe the education one sounds interesting, Carla.
Please, Carla, that'd be great.
Yep.
That was Carla. That was the other Carla.
It's the other Carla, I know.
Carla. I'm going to camouflage as Norma tomorrow.
Oh, I lost you, Carla. Where'd you go?
I'm here.
I don't see you now. Here we go. Education.
You have the thankless job, Carla, of moving everyone around.
It's not that, I mean, once we came to the realization that's what it was going to be, it wasn't that hard. Everybody was pretty easy going.
Oh, I just saw that I had an invite to the breakout room. I missed that down below. I'm going to go now. I'll be back. Bye.
Yep. Okay. Hi, Chris. I'm sorry. I thought I had let you into the room earlier.
Yeah, I had to leave for a minute. That's no.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's like I could have sworn I let him in.
Yeah, I just had to get out for a sec.
No worries. Just wanted
So
to
I
make.
can just wait for the main group to come back.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome back, everybody. We're coming back together. I'm going to reshare my screen. And Carla, let me know when you think we're all reassembled.
That will be a very good question. Maybe we can, I will unmute people who are going to report out.
Looks like we're here.
Okay, good.
We're going to take 10 minutes now just for some reporting back to the larger group. The
discussions held in these breakout rooms. And I think we'll jump right into room number 1, environmental protection.
Yeah, let me go ahead and grab my notes here. Okay, so off the bat, there was a conversation about the impact that crowds can have and human waste can have on the environment, and making sure that we are providing appropriate facilities to mitigate that. There was also concern expressed about crab poaching and what's going to be done to prevent that from occurring or continuing, as it is a well-established problem or long-standing problem that has entities working to address, but is still ongoing. And then there was also water quality concerns expressed, specifically with the lagoon at the mouth of the creek, and is there going to be an effort to monitor that water? There was some comments about the boardwalk, the proposed boardwalk, and that it would be built through plover habitat, and that what impact would that have on the plovers, but also during a high tide or a storm event, that structure could likely be damaged or taken out. And so there was concern expressed about not putting it in the first place. Because we know that if you build a lot of facilities or amenities, that's going to draw a lot of people towards the beach or to the beach. There was an expressed concern about don't make it the new big beach that everyone wants to go to. So start with minimal and work towards it, with the understanding that you should provide minimal services up front and then add them as you go on, instead of allowing anything and everything to occur at first and then trying to roll them back. There was also an idea floated about improving other parks and beaches to try and spread people out as much as possible, so everyone isn't going to come to the same beach. And then there's a conversation about no matter what we do, people will come. So make sure we're providing those services, bathrooms, garbage cans, and have these facilities in areas where you're encouraging people to go. There was a desire to close the creek and the lagoon altogether to public recreation. And there's a desire to restore the property to the most native condition possible to benefit the flora and fauna and eradicate non-native plant species, and that the restoration of the property should be equally important as the built environment. And then lastly, there was a comment added at the end about security cameras, and I presume that's tied into making sure that nefarious activities are not occurring outside of normal operating hours. I don't, Hillary, did I miss anything?
I think that captured it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. We're going to switch it up. I want to flip over to room number 3, Catherine and John, education and awareness.
Hi, everyone. So we had a smaller group, but we talked about the addition of interpretive panels throughout the site to address a number of different topics, including the Ohlone, the history of the site, education on sensitive species such as snowy plovers, and education on pollution and trash and pack it in and pack it out topics. And then we also talked about the idea for using this site in the future for field trips and educational hikes for the community, as well as the potential to have different volunteer opportunities for beach cleanups, potentially a docent opportunity like the Devil Slide Trail ambassadors serve for the Devil Slide Trail, as well as maybe even a community science opportunity to have a snowy plover watch, especially during breeding season, to discourage people from entering into the sensitive habitat area.
Great, thank you. We'll jump to room 2, which was my room with Taylor on equity and inclusion. Taylor, do you want to take it?
Sure. We had a fairly small group as well. We talked about, I would say, two main topics. The first being a concern that the loop trail would impinge on the adjacent use of the other beach as a nude beach. And so what route options, what kind of management options can we as a team do to make sure that we're not creating opportunities for people to gawk, and that the use of this adjacent beach as a clothing optional beach is preserved. So that was kind of the first main topic that we discussed in terms of equity. And then the second main topic that we discussed in terms of equity was around accessibility issues, and specifically accessibility issues to the MID-BLUFF, and all the way down to the beach and the sand and water itself. Heard about some really cool ideas about Moby mats and other programmatic opportunities to provide people that access down to the sand. And then we also heard that ADA standards can be limiting, and so it doesn't need to be either black or white, either or. There's shades of gray in between, and anything that we can do to kind of improve accessibility would be welcome. And so taking that into account on trails and seating and overlooks and rest opportunities in particular. John and Andy, anything you'd like to add to that report out?
Just that we did hear that a desire for these types of amenities and access alignments to still be able to find the right balance with the environmental protection goals of the project. And, yeah, I think you captured it. Otherwise, we're going to be definitely engaging with that group going forward. So thank you. Lastly, room 4, outdoor experiences.
Thank you. We had a good conversation about outdoor experiences. We discussed the need for, the basic need for good access to the beach, clean restrooms, and good trash service in order to maintain a pristine site. We also talked about the need for staffing to address the after-hour poaching. There was a concern about operating hours and regarding their outdoor experience, the ability to take in a sunset in the evening, and just wanted to make sure that was on our radar as well. Somebody mentioned possibly the need for Wi-Fi on the site, as cell reception is pretty spotty. If somebody was to take a ride share and be dropped off at the site, that they could be contacted and be picked up afterwards. Folks were interested in hearing more about dog access, equestrian access, and also pulling bicyclists off of Highway 1 and allowing access into the site with the ability to secure a bicycle as well. We also did hear about wheelchair access to the beach as part of a user experience. Robert, is there anything else that I missed that you'd like to add?
No, I was just going to mention that we heard an interesting comment that lands to the east are public lands, and there's new items coming online, and there was a comment, could it be that somehow be safely connected to Tunitas Creek Beach across Highway 1?
And also, what about the overflow parking situation if the 63 proposed parking spots are inadequate? Because at Montero State Beach, they just park all over the shoulders of the highway, and it gets pretty dangerous driving when people are backing out of parking spots and stuff. So I just want to know if you had any plans for that, especially if the other side of the road is owned by MROSD. They may not want people parking all over their pristine area.
Great, thank you, everyone. We're going to be compiling all this input and these comments. I think certainly to be considered as we keep moving forward here. At this time, we do want to have a chance for an open question comment period. Please use the chat window to ask your question. Carla is going to be reviewing the questions. She'll read them out to the group, and we'll do the best we can to answer as many as we can here in our window.
So I'm going to start from the top. I try to group some of the questions as is feasible. The first question is regarding the surface type of parking areas, dirt or water permeable?
This has been a topic of discussion for the team for a while now, and while it's dirt out there now, we recognize the need for a more formalized parking situation that would likely be paved. Understanding that paved condition will necessitate some additional considerations, in particular regards to stormwater. And some other considerations just around how we're buffering noise and traffic from Highway 1 toward the overlook. Robert or Mario, do you want to weigh in on that anymore?
Yeah, no, I think there's a careful balance between wanting to make an all-weather parking surface that requires the least amount of maintenance on behalf of parks. So the goal is to create a hard surface that can be used by all users and not require significant maintenance, but make sure that the stormwater that's collected from that is directed towards rain gardens and other features that remove pollutants and contaminate, so they're not discharged to the ocean, as well as really being responsible about how that water is released down the bluff so we don't create erosion or other earth movements that might occur.
I'm going to ask everybody to, I would ask that you post your questions in the chat because if we let people in and start asking their own questions or having dialogues, then it makes it really difficult to manage with this size of people. So hopefully, help us out by doing that. There were a couple of questions actually that came through, which I believed were discussed in the chat, and that it was in regards to the concern about environment, and especially trash, and the number and placement of trash cans. And there was one other, and also the topic of accessibility. And I heard in that group the conversation that there's some gray areas, but I think that there's wanting to understand what will be available to people who have some limited mobility and the need to rest and stop and that type of thing. So those are two questions in one. I think the trash can was somewhat addressed in the group session, but I'll let you guys chime in and let me know what you think, Nicholas or whoever was managing that section.
Carla, I'm not sure he got that. Could you ask that again? Nicholas, are you there?
I'm here. I'm doing exactly what Carla said not to do. I'm trying to keep track of the comments and questions being asked in the chat section. I apologize, Carla.
Well, is somebody going to be reading off the different questions and then responding to what we put in the chat?
So to answer the question about site accessibility, as was demonstrated in the presentation, the parking facility will be designed to accommodate accessible parking stalls, and there'll be a designated accessible path of travel that goes from the parking facility down to the MID-BLUFF area. And that ramp and the level landings will be designed consistent with the California building code, so it'll be an accessible path of travel. And the restrooms and other features such as picnic tables will also accommodate site accessibility. And I think
Arlo, is there?
Well, I was going to say the other question regarding trash. I think that there is a, and maybe somebody can correct me. There's a fundamental, I guess, philosophy whether we should provide trash and recycling receptacles on site, or if we should encourage folks to pack in and pack it out. We want to make sure that when we provide trash receptacles, that County Parks has the crews and that can move that waste away. But we also want to find and create a sense of stewardship so that folks using the park are responsible about how they manage waste on the site.
Yeah, and I think we're in conversations with other entities that manage beaches to discuss what strategies have worked for them and which ones haven't. We are making a huge push right now during COVID to have individuals pack in, pack out. And part of that is because of the huge amount of trash that is being left at parks across the Bay Area. We are likely going to start out by promoting that and trying to make that happen. But if that's not something that is feasible, then we will have to start placing trash cans in areas that we are encouraging people to congregate, and then provide the necessary garbage service to make sure that that's not overflowing and polluting the ocean and polluting the beach. So we really want to promote a pack in, pack out mentality, but we are also fully prepared to provide garbage service at whatever required level it is to keep the property clean and healthy.
Let me go on to a few other questions. And I am monitoring the chat. So please don't worry, I'll try to get to everybody. There's a question about snowy plover protections and how there's some reference to the boardwalk, but is that directly over the habitat? And so the question is, what pressure does this put on the snowy plover, if that's the case?
Yeah, the boardwalk would have to be located outside of plover habitat and done so in a way that would not have an adverse effect, most certainly not a long-term adverse effect on the plovers. With that said, we would have to take that through a full environmental review process to understand what those impacts may be, and if that is something that is desired. The original thought around that was to give individuals an opportunity to see plovers, to see the creek without actually walking through these environmentally sensitive areas, and doing so in a way that makes those areas accessible. But once again, as with all of our projects, right, we are building this park to serve the public, and if that's something that the public and of course the regulatory agencies are not in support of, that's something that would not make it into the final plan.
Okay, I have a couple of questions as it relates to amenities, and that is drinking water. I think there was also one at a point about bicyclists and how to safely lock and secure their bicycles when they're riding to the beach, and well, I'll let you go with, and accessible bathrooms. I'll let you take that away, whomever wants to take that one.
Yeah, certainly. Speaking to the bicycle consideration, we're definitely paying attention to that at the top of the bluff. We do understand we're going to do what we can to accommodate the potential future coastal trail as it comes through the site. Understanding that that will necessitate some thinking around how a bicycle trail comes along the parking lot or past the overlook zones, and trying to accommodate for cyclists generally, just with things like, the potential for certainly for bike racks, potentially for tool stations, and other amenities that might appeal to cyclists, whether they're arriving at Tunitas to kind of begin a ride or they are passing through here on their way somewhere else. And I think the drinking water question is something I'm gonna pass the buck on either to Mario or Robert, because I know it's something being considered, and would certainly be something that cyclists coming through would be looking for.
I'll tell you what, Andrew, I'll go ahead and take that one.
Or Nicholas, yeah.
So at this time, no source for potable water has been identified on the property. And for that reason, we do not foresee, at least in the near term, providing any type of facility or amenity that dispenses potable water for members of the public. So that's not a feature that would be included, given that there is no potable water on site or accessible to us.
Oh, and then certainly the idea to provide accessible restrooms will be included.
Great. So there's a couple of questions really relates to how this location, once it opens, is managed to avoid the activities that occurred in the past, such as large amount of visitors, obviously, with the large amounts of trash that went with that, as well as heavy drinking and some of the activity that was really related to this location in the past. Nicholas, maybe that's your.
Yeah. So if you look at the change in behavior, turn my camera on. If you look at the change in behavior on the property from before the department started managing the property to now, it's been a very impressive transformation. We are no longer seeing nighttime raves. We are no longer seeing fireworks. We're no longer seeing large bonfires. And while there is some more work that needs to be done, by managing it as a county facility and having a presence on a regular basis naturally deters a lot of that bad behavior. And with regards to outside of normal operating hours, there are security cameras that we can use. There's the partnership we have with the Sheriff's Office and CHP and Fish and Game, and working with these entities to make sure that there's always a presence, a response effort, and the ability to address these behaviors is how we're going to prevent that from happening. If you look at some of our other parks, by and large, the behavior that we are trying to avoid from occurring at this property are not taking place in those areas. And it's because of the way we manage them. It's because of the way we partner with entities like the Sheriff's Office or local police departments during outside operating hours. So we're very confident that with these mechanisms, we will be able to prevent some of those behaviors from occurring.
A few other questions kind categorized into safety, and the safety in terms of educating people who may not be familiar with the location in regards to some of the risks, whether they be riptides or water rising in areas where people would be caught unsuspecting and not being able to get, to land, those types of things. So I think it really relates to perhaps how we will inform, educate, and post some potential hazards.
I think one of the hardest things to do for a coastal property is provide adequate signage, informative signage, and not change the character of the property. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. We have that balance at the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, Pillar Point Bluff. I just think it's one of those challenges that we've learned to balance and navigate, but we will need to provide sufficient signage. One of the about those threats and dangers, one of the benefits of the way this property is set up is there's very few access points, and so concentrating signage in a way that grabs attention at those limited access points to really make sure people are aware of what they're about to experience is going to be critical. Also, we know when we first opened this property, making sure we have sufficient staff on site to engage with the public, to talk with the public, to explain not just about the tides, but about the efforts we're going through to restore the property, and talk about the history of the property, and just educate the public in a more comprehensive manner about the property is something that we're gonna have to do. We're dedicated to doing. We're committed to doing, and we believe that by going through the process early on and by really taking that education component up front very serious, that will set us up for success in the long run.
Okay, I have a question, and I see one, and I think there was another one, but it's really talking about access to the location now. So, for example, can the service road be kept open until construction begins for people to access it in a more safe manner rather than using the bluffs or the creek side?
Yeah, until we've gone through the proper process of designing, permitting, and opening this project this property as a park, we're not cleared to provide access in the way that's being asked about. But that is one of the reasons why it's so important that we are able to identify the critical components of this project and get this project approved and permitted and constructed as quickly as possible, so we can provide not just access down to the beach in the form of that existing access path, but we can also provide access for everyone to that mid-bluff, and we can provide a safer parking experience, and we can start with the restoration process. So that's really where the focus needs to be on how do we get this project moving in its entirety, so we can really start taking the necessary actions on that property to better serve the public and to better serve the environment.
All right, a few more coming in here, so.
Carla, just keeping an eye on time as well.
Yep.
Maybe a couple more.
Yep. There's one other. I think we addressed. I know that there's some concern about safety signage, whether it be evacuation routes, those types of things. But I think we talked about that, and that'll come up while we're during or after construction and opening. So let me.
And I'll just jump in just to say this is definitely not the only time to to offer comment and questions. We are live on tunitascreekbeach.org, where you will find these materials, and there are ways to provide your input through the website as well. And we're hoping that if you do visit the website, you can sign up for updates and keep track of this project as it does move along.
So there is another question. Maybe this is a good segue question. What's the timeline for things moving forward?
Yeah, great question. So our goal is to take the feedback we've received today, incorporate that into the preferred project alternative, bring that to the San Mateo County Parks Commission by the end of this year, and hopefully the Board of Supervisors by the end of this year, early next year, and then that would allow us to start the environmental review process and our CEQA documents, and assuming that takes Robert, I'll let you speak to the schedule after that point.
Yeah, so with approval of the CEQA document and sort of a notice and a general understanding of the skeleton or the backbone of this project, we can begin refining the design and again working with our partners and community members to finalize design concepts, how the site's going to be finally laid out, and again maybe get into some of these exciting programming opportunities that we've spoken again. So there's plenty of opportunities to talk and discuss, and I really hope everybody can look at the website, respond to the online questionnaire, and give us as much feedback as you possibly can give us.
The other thing is when you go to the project webpage, there's an opportunity to sign up, input your email, and sign up for future updates on the project. So please definitely make sure you do so. So we'll be able to reach out to you and let you know as the project progresses, and make sure that you're included throughout the process and every step of the way. So if you're okay with providing your email address, definitely sign up for that at the project website.
And I do want to thank everyone for joining us this evening in this non-traditional engagement session, though becoming a little bit too normal. I look forward to the day we can have these discussions in person, but again, the whole team, we appreciate everybody giving this a shot and taking the time to join us tonight. Mario, anyone just want to have any closing remarks before we wrap?
Yeah, no, just want to again thank everybody for their time, and echo, please visit the website, check out that survey, and please provide your feedback. What we're hoping that folks are going to do with this survey is build their ideal Tunitas Creek Beach. So again, thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Nicholas, great job.
Thank you.
And we'll be capturing the feedback received this evening, both from the breakout rooms, from the chat questions, and we'll be working with that information as we move forward. Thanks, Carla, for facilitating. Thanks, team. And we look forward to next steps with everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.